What's up, guys? I hope you're having a beautiful day. So I'm going to try to answer the million-dollar question for many of you with hypochondria or health anxiety: how to stop worrying about your health. Many of you are needing some reassurance. Many of you would like to know somewhat of a plan of action or formula, if you will, to help conquer this fear. Go ahead and smash that like button down below if you're ready to kick anxiety in the butt, and leave me a comment down there and let me know your thoughts on this and thoughts on the plan that I'm going to try to condense and put together for you quite quickly. Now, I do kind of answer this in many different videos, but it's kind of spread out, and I thought I'd condense this down and try to give you a small list. It's 4 things actually that you can really focus on that can, speed up your recovery. Now, it's a complicated question to answer. There's no 100% right answer. But I'm fairly certain if you follow the 4 tips that I give you, you are going to be on your way to recovery from health anxiety and hypochondria. But you have to commit yourself 100%. You have to try every single day. You can't give up. You can't have off days. You have to be consistent and persistent. You have to be strong. It's not an easy thing to overcome. I suffered for 5 years, and I had a year of recovery. It took me a year of doing the right things. So let that sink in a little bit. Some of you, it's going to take longer than a year. Some of you, it's going to take 6 months. But I've seen some success stories from people, and specific on my Facebook group, and people that have personally messaged me. They said that following my videos has really helped turn their life around in a matter of a couple weeks to a few months for some people. So it's possible. It is possible. It depends on how much you want it, how bad do you want it. So I'm going to get right into this, guys. Remember to take notes. If you just need to like this video or favorite it or whatever, put it in a playlist so you can come back to it. Do it. If you got to watch this every morning, do it. So the first thing, guys, is an important one. We as hypochondriacs and people that suffer from health anxiety, we check our symptoms non-stop, whether that be a lump, a bump, a scratch, a rash. And I'm also talking about checking your blood pressure and checking your pulse. This is like my number one thing right here, go to. I always had my fingers right here on my neck all the time, probably 50 to 100 times a day. I was checking my pulse. Either that or I was checking my pulse on my wrist. I was looking at my pulse in my stomach because I could see my pulse there. I was checking my blood pressure 3 or 4 times a day. I didn't have a app or a machine, so I would have to go to Walmart. I would literally drive to Walmart 3 or 4 times a day to get my blood pressure checked. Guys, this is not going to help you overcome. As long as you are checking your symptoms, checking everything out more so than a normal person. And when I say normal, I mean somebody that is not obsessing. Don't get it twisted. I'm not trying to be rude. But somebody that's not obsessing about their health. So that's what we're trying to get away from, is obsessing, right? Because as long as we're checking our symptoms, we're still worried about our health. So what do we need to do? Stop checking our symptoms. At least fake it till we make it on that part. That is often going to send you into further panic. It's going to lead you to doing other things like searching on Google. It's going to lead you to going to the doctor more. Oftentimes we are checking our blood pressure 10, 20, 30 times a day because now there's apps on your phone, there's machines. If you have an app for pulse rate or heart rate or blood pressure, delete it now. Delete it immediately. You do not need it. That is going to do nothing but hold you back. You have to understand, with anxiety, because health anxiety is anxiety, your heart rate is going to be higher than most people's and your blood pressure is going to be higher than most people's. You should know that by now. And checking it over and over and over is not going to make it go down. So stop checking your symptoms. Get your reassurance initially from the doctor, then stop it. Stop it. I know it's easier said than done. Just don't do it. I often felt a lot worse after checking my blood pressure and my heart rate. Almost every time I felt worse. And what does that do when you feel worse? Makes it go up even higher. So we have to start using this up here. Stop checking your symptoms. Promise me that you're going to do that. The next one, guys, is Googling your symptoms. Just touched on it a little bit. Often, whenever we check our symptoms too much, we turn to Google. No, we should turn to an actual doctor. Because Google doesn't diagnose us. What ends up happening? We diagnose ourselves by looking at certain symptoms. Guys, Google, whenever you search, you're going to find the worst diseases at the top. Because those sell, and obviously the worst diseases are the ones that, take the most lives. They're going to warn you right up front. But us that suffer from health anxiety are going to assume the worst and assume that we have those diseases. We may have 1 symptom out of 30 of those symptoms, and we're going to automatically assume that we have that disease. Does that sound healthy? No. Go to a real doctor and stop going to Dr. Google or WebMD or the Mayo Clinic. Stop going to those. You need to get real reassurance from a real doctor. Do not Google. Oftentimes, I would find myself Googling one symptom that I was associating myself with one disease, and then by the time I was done, I thought I had 5 other diseases. It was like a spider web of traps. Just don't do it. Do not Google. Please. Many of you refuse to stop doing this. You will not get better if you continue to Google. As long as you are Googling, you're what? You're worried about your health. So what do we need to do? Stop Googling so we're not as worried about our health. Okay, the next one, guys. Stop asking for reassurance. Now, I know this is kind of complicated. This is kind of weird. I always want you to go to the doctor in the beginning and get your initial reassurance. Get your testing done. But after that, do not continuously go to the doctor each time something new pops up, especially if you're going multiple times a week. Does that seem healthy? Does that seem logical? Does that seem right? Does it seem needed? Or does it seem obsessive? A little over the top? A little irrational? Yeah, probably the latter 3. So, after you go to the doctor, believe and trust the doctor, which is crucial, and stop going back. Now, another thing, don't continue to ask reassurance from friends and other people nonstop. Not only will they distance themselves from you, probably get annoyed, and I will tell you why they will get annoyed, and it doesn't seem fair, but most people do not understand us that suffer from health anxiety and hypochondria. I'm saying us because I did suffer, and I'm trying to relate with you. Most people that don't have a mental illness will never, ever, including anxiety disorders, depression, all of that, will never understand really what you're going through. That's why a lot of people liked my channel instead of actually going to another therapist, because many therapists didn't actually suffer from the diseases they're trying to help you with. So it's hard for you to relate to them, and a lot of people can relate with me. But I see this in the Facebook group. I see this in the comments. I would say when you first develop health anxiety, you really do need reassurance for your symptoms. But I would give it a month or 2, maybe 3 months max of asking questions, especially in these groups, and then start focusing on recovery. You can't ask questions and ask if people have these symptoms for the rest of your life. Does that sound like you're moving forward? Does that sound like you're going to cure yourself? No. You are not going to get any better if you constantly need reassurance on a daily basis, not even daily, hourly basis. Okay? Realize that you have health anxiety, that you have issues that you need to work out, and then start handling that. Asking for reassurance every day sounds like you're what? Worrying about your health. So how do we stop worrying about our health? Stop constantly asking for that reassurance. The next one, guys, may be one of the most important ones. It helped me at the end. Exposure therapy. Many of you run away from triggers. Now, I know there's certain triggers you can't avoid, like alcohol and tobacco, drugs, things like that. You can't avoid that. But you can't always avoid flying. You can't always avoid heights. You can't avoid driving. I had panic attacks while driving. Was scared I was going to have a heart attack and hurt somebody else on the road. I avoided exercise. You can't avoid exercise your whole life. You can't. I avoided going to see other people. I avoided, certain jobs. I avoided so many things that were triggers. You cannot keep running from triggers. You cannot keep running from your fears. Exposure therapy is about facing your fear in a healthy dosage, little by little, increasing that exposure over time until you are familiar with it. Because studies have shown as you familiarize your mind with certain fears, little by little, using exposure therapy, it becomes numb to that fear. In other words, you will not have that fear in the future. It slowly decreases and depletes. So, how does that work? I'll use exercise. Many of you are scared to exercise. You go outside for a day and just kind of walk around in your yard the first day. Does that sound hard? No. What do you do the next day? Oh, you walk up and down the block a little further. Then you walk half a mile. Then you walk a mile. Then the next week you walk 2 miles. Then the next week you walk a mile, run half a mile. Then you're running 2 miles. Then you're adding weightlifting. You can start out with 5 or 10 pounds. Then you gradually increase. You're not overloading yourself. You're not freaking yourself out initially, and you're building on exposing yourself to that fear. Another example is for heights. This might sound cheesy, but this basically shows you how exposure therapy works. The first day, you have a really tall ladder, one of the biggest ones they got. you take the first step on the ladder, and then you stand there for about 30 seconds, and you get down. First day, you're feeling pretty good, right? You're like, wow, I made the first step, right? The next day it gets a little bit harder, but you're like, this ain't too high up. It's just 2 steps up. And then you go 3 steps, 4 steps, 5 steps. It does get a little bit more difficult, but you're slowly working your way up that ladder. And then by the time you get to the top, you feel a lot better and you feel a lot less afraid because you slowly worked your way up there. And I think that's what life is about in general. If you're wanting to be healthy, if you're wanting to get better at whatever you're trying to do, little bitty things, little bitty changes make big differences in the long run. So exposure therapy, guys, please use it. Guys, I hope you got value out of this. Sorry this video went a little bit too long. Go ahead and smash that like button if you got any value. Again, leave me a comment. Let me know if this video meant something to you. Let me know. I thought I would try something different, condense some of the stuff I talk about in various videos into one. I hope this proves value for many of you and helps you stop worrying about your health. But remember, you got to apply it each and every day. This is no easy task. It took me a year. It's going to take some of you longer. Lucky ones are going to only deal with this for a couple weeks or a couple months. All right, so just trust me on this process. My other tips for anxiety are down below, so please go check those out. There's many things in there that I didn't mention today that are going to help you along the way. Little bonuses, if you will. You need to try those out. There's journals down there. There's therapy down there. There's a store that has tons of different vitamins and CBD products. Those things can, help you manage your symptoms. Go check out all that stuff down below along with my social media. I love you guys. I'll talk to you later.